Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to TinyBlueGames. My name, of course, is Cesar Chris, and today we're talking about Guild Wars 2. Now, I apologize that there hasn't been a ton of videos, but there's been a few things going on. Number one, I'll plead guilty to be having played a lot of Guild Wars 2 recently because they just released a huge patch that had a new living story, a new map, a new fractal, and a new raid, as well as some fractal reworks, which we're watching in the background, and that's kind of what this video will mostly be about. But I've also been very busy with work because for the first time ever, I'm working in the marketing field during, sort of the end of November, which is Cyber Black Friday time, and the start of December, which is also crazy. And I've really been having a lot of craziness at work, which has really cut into my time. And, there's still the whole moving stuff to our new place and stuff like that that's still going on. It seems like it takes a really long time to buy everything you need when you move out for the very first time because, there's these items that you just never think about buying until it's, oh crap, we need that right now. So that's been really fun, and it's been a great experience, but it's taken up a lot of time. There's been a few trips to IKEA over the last, couple weekends and stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to being all settled in, and I'm also looking forward to the new year when we can get past kind of this retail craziness. Not that I haven't enjoyed how much work and stuff I get to work on, but it's been very busy, and hell, why did ArenaNet have to go and drop a bunch of content right in the mix of all this? I have no idea, but here we are. So to the matter at hand, we're going to be talking about the Moten Duo Fractal Rework. So this is something that a lot of people kind of saw was going to happen eventually, because we know that they've been trying to normalize fractals to keep them about the same length so that they're all equally rewarding. And we've seen some major outliers kind of be hit. For instance, Cliffside was known to be really long and tedious, so that was one of the few that got hit pretty quickly. And then Swampland was at one point in a position where that was like the only fractal that people chose to run because of how quick and like simple it could be. And we saw that got reworked. And then, of course, Moten Duo, which is known to be one of the easiest fractals and quickest fractals as well, was likely to get hit eventually. So it's not a huge surprise. It's a bit devastating for some people in the community. It's devastating for some people whenever rewards get nerfed, right? Like if you did Fractal 40 farming, which was this fractal that people would just run in like under 2 minutes and just like make some pretty good gold by doing it extremely fast. I'm sure it's kind of disheartening to know that you're going to have to find a different way to make gold now. No one likes change, but I think this is a great change for the game for people who, like me, just do your daily tier 4s. This way, when, you're not just hoping for this one, right? You kind of want it to be a case where you're like, oh, this one's nice. Oh, this one's nice. It's not like, oh, crap, I wish it was Molten Duo. Now I have to do Cliffside. I hate the world. Now, to be fair, given the changes to both of these fractals, I'd still rather do Moten Duo instead of Cliffside because I take forever doing Cliffside in my parties for some reason. But it's a lot closer of a gap than it was before, so I've got to give them that. And that's really a big step for fractals as 5-man content, because I think in any game where you have the same rewards for a given set of content, the biggest struggle is making it feel like, you didn't get ripped off. Let's talk about the other big MMO that we all know and love, World of Warcraft. They had a random dungeon finder that would reward you daily for doing a random heroic dungeon or something like that. And then you'd push the button and see what dungeon you got. And, there was always times during WoW's time, that was a beautiful sentence, where there would be, one dungeon that was so hard and so brutal that if you rolled it in a random dungeon, people would leave right away until you got the random dungeon you wanted. And it just wasn't a fun time, right? Because then there's the few people who really want to do that dungeon, but it takes forever to find a group because there's so many people trying to get it. It's just a bad situation. Now, obviously, fractals are kind of different where you can choose specifically what fractal you're going in and stuff like that. And there's not like a random button per se. It's just randomly assigned. And they give you the benefit of knowing what the daily fractals are and letting you choose if it's worth your time to do them or not. So it's kind of a really good system that way where there's a lot more choice. But it's allowed to have more choice if all the fractals are fairly similar in terms of length. The other thing to note is that although, Moten Duo was pretty short, it was lengthened by pretty irritating parts. For instance, there was a cutscene that you had to stand there and watch that was like 30 seconds, and it got pretty irritating, especially if you were doing the farm. And then there was also the one trash mob to begin that you had to kill, and this was sort of one of those big flaming effigies or whatever. And it would take quite a while to kill, mostly because it didn't take burning damage, and a lot of Condi classes rely on burning. So specifically as a necromancer who plays fractals, I found this to be a great change, because I'd rather, at least fight a bunch of different mobs that take my damage instead of this one mob that takes forever because like a bunch of my skills don't work on it. It just doesn't sound great. And I mean, to a greater game point, a lot of the mobs that used to be immune to burning damage have been made to take burning damage now. It didn't make sense to have like these very few mobs inside of instances still have this situation where, they don't take burning damage. I should also note that this is done on like the lowest tier. So although in this video it takes me like 9 minutes in our first run through, it could take you a bit longer. But it's a pretty decent time, and it's pretty like direct. Like it's not like, oh my god, where do we go, or how do we get past this? It's a pretty self-contained, direct, on the rails instance that I think it's very good and clean for a fractal. It might be on the shorter side still, especially compared to some of the new ones, but I think it's quite well handled. The other thing this does, especially for those of us who played during Living World, where we got to see the story, this allows us to see that content again, and it allows people who weren't there to really get some more background instead of just being teleported in to kill these two bosses that didn't make any sense, and with these heroes that made no sense. So it really gives some background to the fight, which I think is very important as well. I think any fractal should have some kind of story it's trying to tell. I think there could be some stuff done to try and have, more of a lineup between this fractal and the other chunk of this dungeon that's also a fractal, the Molten Facility, I think it's called, to sort of, make it more linear. I don't know how great the continuity is. If you had no idea of the dungeon, I don't know if you'd realize that they're both heavily related. You probably would, because the aesthetics are pretty similar, but it would be interesting to hear from someone who didn't play that dungeon. Did you know right away that these were part of the same fractals? I don't know. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun doing it. Obviously, I don't know. It's not like I've been running this fractal over again. Quite honestly, I've been trying to do the first new raid boss, which has been quite difficult for our pub groups. I know it's, kind of a medium hard boss in general, but it's been pretty difficult for a lot of the groups I've joined. But overall, this content drop for GuildWars2 has been extremely good, and mixed with my busy schedule has kept me very entertained. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on fractals and the reworks. Do you think this is long enough? Do you think this this is the kind of length they should be aiming for? Should it be a bit longer, or should all fractals be a little bit shorter to be similar to this? Yeah, I'd love to hear. I hope you guys are having a great December, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day.